Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with the Superlative podcast. Please listen to Blog to Watch's other podcast, Blog to Watch Weekly, where we talk about the latest watch news and reviews. Today on Superlative, my guest is longtime colleague, Pascal Ravessoud, the vice president or the co-man in charge of the FHH, that stands for Fondation Haute Horlogerie. Pascal, welcome.
Hi, Ariel. Pleasure to be here.
So we saw each other not too long ago in New York City, not where you live, not where I live, but where the FHH was doing one of its special events. And I think that's actually a big part of what you do now. Like much of the watch industry, as I'm finding, is you are traveling around the world, spreading the good word of Swiss watches, right?
Yes, that's exactly that. I think this really is in the mission of the FHH to spread the good word. We're promoting the watchmaking culture as much as we can to the widest possible audience. That's basically what we do.
Now, that statement you said, promoting watchmaking culture, is absolutely correct, but I think it's also something worth diving a little bit into because it took me a while to truly understand what this meant. At first, I remember going to SIHH, which was, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of FHH, one of your babies. And there was always this term in a watchmaking culture. And you know what I thought that meant was like stuff that happened in Geneva, right? Like let's talk about the Swiss. Here's our background. Here's what we value. Know about our different types of cheeses and the different types of, screwdrivers we have and machines and regions. I thought it was that. And it turns out it's actually a little bit more straightforward than that. If you understand watches, you want watches. If you don't understand watches, you don't know what you're missing. Therefore, you don't want watches. So watchmaking culture is really what I call the hobby. I know that's like a dirty term in Switzerland, but it's the appreciation of watchmaking, its history, its techniques, its pleasures, its rarities, so that you know what you want and you can buy stuff.
Exactly that. And actually, it's a bit more complicated, but basically that's the idea. I think if you think about watches, I mean, it lost its primary purpose like decades ago. Yet the interest in mechanical traditional watchmaking hasn't been higher than now. And it has been a huge change through the COVID years where, this crazy appetite for watches went on and on and on like a bubble, and then brought into the hobby, not a business, it's a hobby, many young people that don't necessarily have this culture. And as you said, the culture encompasses a lot of things. And there is a lot of knowledge about it. But the idea, if you only spread the knowledge, you take the risk of being dusty. And it's actually not only about sharing the knowledge, but sharing the passion. And so many times we've taken people by the hand because they didn't get it. They didn't get what was behind or inside the watch. And the idea was to take them and show them and explain them and try to make them feel the passion behind how these little watchmakers hidden in the Jura Mountain were so passionate about finishing a bridge by hand. It took them 5 hours. And if you don't go into these kind of details and explain the difficulty, the highest level of quality of these hidden gems that are all through the Jura Mountain, you don't get it. So that's our mission, basically. It's try to take people by the hand and make them having this sparkle to say, okay, now I get it. And once you start to get it, as you said, you want it. And that's.
Now, you're right that today this is oddly less of an issue than it was just a few years ago. And you and I and many others are quite surprised that social media and pop culture has made the watch industry more popular now than it was, again, just a decade ago. But for a long time, especially when I started this industry, and I'd say for most of our mutual careers, the watch industry faced the very real fact that watches were no longer something, as you said, people automatically bought because of some utility that it provided, right? You had to first explain to someone why you'd want it. Like any other passion, there needs to be an introduction, exposure, reinforcement. And
Okay.
I thought a lot about this when I first got into watches, and I wanted more people to get into the hobby. And I recognized that it wasn't going to happen by automatically. For me, it was an accident. I accidentally figured out watches, but I never had an upbringing or a family that's like, "Hey, Ariel, watches are awesome." Like, I always wore watches, but I never considered myself a collector. That was an accidental discovery. And I've spent so much time over the years thinking about creating a system to ensure that, every year there's new watch lovers. Now, again, the great news is a lot of that hard work has kind of been done for us, but I think it's important to say that this is the context. This is within which what the FHH was founded, because this was a very big reality. And it probably will continue to be a reality in the future, right?
It definitely will. Interestingly, just taking what you said a little bit further back, when the FHH was created 20 years ago, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary.
Congrats.
It was created because it was the start of haute horlogerie, high horology that was coming into life. Surprisingly enough, 500 years of watchmaking didn't bring haute horlogerie. It was just a new term that was used at the beginning of the millenary. And it started to get big, and nobody could actually figure out what haute horlogerie meant. And so the idea behind the Fondation was to explain to the people what is haute horlogerie and what is not. And so it started like that, but it was also hooked with the SIHH. And so all the cultural education part slowly got hidden behind the salon that was actually gearing up and taking much more importance and actually ultimately prevailed over Baselworld. And it was getting so big with the arrival of, the ex-Baselworld big brands like Rolex and Patek, that it made no sense to have a cultural foundation attached to it, because it's still it's the highlight of the year, Watches and Wonders now, but it's a commercial endeavor. Let's face it. So we separated from Watches and Wonders 3 years ago to continue the original mission that was actually what we discussed over the last minutes, to bring the passion across and to explain what's the deal.
Yeah, that's, I think, so important to talk about into detail, because again, people just getting in the industry today have no idea what you just said, right? They're like, SIHH, Baselworld, what is all that? I don't know what you mean. That's, again, crazy. But your organization was essentially the organizer of one of two major Swiss watch shows. Baselworld was a big one. And for a number of years in Geneva, not in Basel, SIHH was essentially Richemont's show, but with a few other brands. I used to call it Richemont and Friends. Now it's Richemont and a lot of friends. Not all friends, actually. But it is, an annual event. It's extremely important. There's guests from all around the world. It's very expensive to put together. And as you said, about 2 years ago, the decision was made to sort of split the organization. What is the name of the new organization that just handles Watches and Wonders? Is it just the Watches and Wonders Foundation? What is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Watches and Wonders Geneva Foundation.
Geneva Foundation.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that they put it into a foundation. I think the idea at the end, it's also a sort of education, but it's in a more commercial context. So definitely the split was important and was due, because the two differing mission that were coming to life, and I think today Watches and Wonders is more than ever a beacon in the industry. It's a high point, it's a focal point of the industry to discover the news and the innovation and everything that goes on. And we are continuing our mission to educate more on a general side for the general knowledge of watchmaking. So we are not so much linked to the brands themselves, but to actually the products and how they're made and what's the whole thing around it.
Well, it should be obvious to people listening that those are two very distinct roles. Organizing a major trade show where you have to make exhibitors and guests and a venue and a ton of different workers happy is a fundamentally different job than having essentially a cultural attaché agency where your job is to go around and promote. You're somewhere between a PR agency and a marketing company, right? Like that's something there totally different than dealing with, union workers to build small structures inside of a convention center. Like could not be more different, right?
Yeah, we're more on the content and they're more on the container, if I may say so, although it's not exactly like that. But I mean, yeah, essentially that's what you said.
Now, when the organization split up, as you said, did you have an option of which way to go? And if so, why did you choose the cultural side?
So I am with the foundation 18 years. And so, FHH launched its website 18 years ago. So I was basically almost there and from the inception, from the start. And I think I've always been on the cultural side, on the side I'm here now. And so it's totally in line with what I wanted. Why did I join the foundation at first? I was working before for a brand, for Harry Winston, timepieces with a Max Busser. And I learned a lot with him about the industry that made me think I really wanted to, make my professional life out of this industry. But I wasn't really, comfortable with the mission of, selling stuff. So the foundation has an ideal goal that I was attracted to. I'm still as attracted as I was the first day. It's really about, spreading the good word. This may be a good formula. And this is what attracted me because we are actually trying to explain, to discover, to make people feel. And this is really at my core what moves me in a way.
Now, this organization was created because it was clear that there was a need for it, right? These companies recognized that the public needed to know about watches in order to want watches. So I'm curious what you can tell me about the personalities that set this up. Was there one key individual? Was it a group of people? Because I think it's actually quite a bold move that an organization like the FHH was created even in the first place.
Yeah, I think really the paternity of the FHH can be really given without any doubt to Franco Coloni. Franco Coloni is an executive from Richmond, but he was a man of culture. He's the one who really set the tone and said, watchmaking is beyond its mere use, because the usefulness, we said, has disappeared quite a long time ago. But if you want to nurture this very old and important culture, like art, you need to nurture it, you need to explain it, you need to pass it on. And he was the one really pushing for the FHH to be created because he wanted, as you said, let's say a better informed customer is a better customer. But beyond that is the love for watches that needs to be passed on, especially to the younger generation that didn't need a watch for their life, which we did. I mean, when I grew up, my mother had a watch and a mechanical watch. I didn't grow up in a family of watchmakers and no connection to watchmaking whatsoever. But it was part of the environment. Today, the millennials, they're born with a phone on their hand and they certainly don't need a watch to tell them time. And that's even more important to take on this generation aboard, explaining not the usefulness, but the crazy world behind it.
Going back to Mr. Coloni, who was a very celebrated character, what were his ideas on precisely how the FHH would accomplish this mission? Because it makes sense that there's this need, but the way of doing it is challenging. I always like to say that when you get someone to a watch factory, we talk about this all the time. When someone visits a manufacturer in Switzerland and they do the tour and they meet the personalities and they spend a couple of hours just sort of seeing how, not even everything, but a lot of stuff put together, it's really hard to leave that experience and not fundamentally appreciate and desire what that factory makes. Like, it's very hard to walk away and not care. But that's not cost effective. You can't take each potential watch lover around the world and be like, you want to come to Switzerland for a few days? So, of course, the idea is how to sort of package that. But I'm very curious because Mr. Coloni was, an intelligent person who was very creative. What were his ideas on exactly how that might be done?
it was done through a lot of different ways, and it was only, digital at the time. We were talking 2005, right? So digital at the time was at the beginning. I mean, internet was launched at the end of the 90s. So the website was fueling this perspective of not having to bring people into the manufacturers, but showing them through, especially photos, articles, a little bit like what you do, but in a more unbranded and general way. That was the idea, is to say we are not working for the brands, or we are working actually for the whole industry. So we want to put things into perspective of an art living on through many examples of various brands. And we had many partner brands that we still have. We are working with 36 brands at the time that are also partially funding us to spread out the word in a non-branded way. And that was a complement to what the brands were doing. And so this was very important from the inset, was to not to replicate what the brands were doing or be the promoter of that or this set of brands. The idea was really to say, okay, it's a collective effort, and you need to understand the general sense through what we're doing. And then you can go to the brands and choose the one that speaks the most to you. Digital was one way. The other way was through exhibitions. So every year at the SIHH, there were cultural exhibitions on different things, on the astronomy, on feminine watches, on chronograph, on complications. And the idea was to illustrate this theme with different brands. So it was always a collective effort that was to be outlined.
I think what's important to say is that the reason an organization like the FHH was necessary, and what I think Mr. Coloni identified at the time, was that even though these companies had a lot in common, they were also competitors. And they were also relatively short-sighted in their goals. Meaning when you say to them, hey, what do you need? They're like, help me sell my watches. And you're like, oh, okay, but anything else? No, help me sell my watches. The reality is they need more than that, but they're very direct and relatively, short-term in what they're thinking to promote the aesthetic, the craftsmanship, the artisanship, the history. All that stuff needed a third party. And that's what I've never quite understood, is how internally, and I'm sure it's a constant juggling act and dance, is how you blend those two things. Where you're like, I know you want to sell your stuff, but we also need to sell the stuff that your competitors makes. How do you get brands to go along with it? What's the secret, if there is a secret, to merging those two contradictory things? Selling the industry, but also I just want to sell myself.
I think we had from the inset this honesty to say, okay, we have, 40 partner brands, and one brand is one brand. Whether it is one of our founders or not, doesn't change anything. Whether these people are insisting maybe more than others to sell their stuff, we're not caring. The idea was always to say, we put in front, and first and foremost, the collective effort, and we try to illustrate through different brands. And it is probably a masterclass in politics, one way or another. But at the end of the day, I think if you see whatever piece of content we produced over the last 20 years, you will not recognize the fact that we put in front more this or that brand. And I think nobody at the FHH, whether it be Richemont or their friends, never pushed us in that direction. So they had also, I think, the honesty to let us do our job and to the best of our conscience, without pushing clearly to get, more exposure than the others. And it's even more so now, as we are now become a little bit of a different foundation that is even more open than before. But it has always been the case that we had our hands were not tight. Never. And this is really important to mention.
But I'm sure over the years you've had some odd requests. Many of them I'm sure you've had to turn down. But what are some of the things that member brands thought, hey, maybe the FHH could do this for me? And you had to be like, nice try, but no.
All the time. I mean, as you said, and rightly so, if I was working still for a brand, I will try. But I think at the end, it was clear that the no was a definite one, and it was always a no. And we've been also probably very skilled at saying no, but politely stating that our mission wasn't that.
So what did you show the brands that made them feel that this was working in their interest? I know brands like evidence. They're very suspicious. They're very conservative. They say they like data, but honestly, I don't think they want it because they never look at it.
Okay, I don't know.
In my experience with brands, when they want to justify something, they're like, can you show me data? And what I realize is they already know what they want to do. They're just looking for data to confirm what they already want to do. So that's why I kind of joke that, yes, maybe they say, show me metrics, but the reality is they don't really do anything with it. It doesn't really persuade them anything novel. But they still, I'm sure, wanted demonstrations of what you're doing were helping them. What did you show them? What was your sort of feel-good emails or phone calls or reports that you would send to them?
Again, if you look at the data we can have as a foundation, they are relatively, small compared to, let's say, a very big online title like yours. So I think, again, it's part of a collective and long-term effort. And it took a while. It really took a while for the people to understand, really what we were going to do on the long term. And I think it became much more evident when we separated from the salon. And during the first year of the separation in 2023, I remember with my colleague Aurélie, who is co-directing the FHH with me, going and meeting all the brands to explain what we were doing, etc. That was actually mainly hidden behind the salon activity, And so all of a sudden, for the first time, we could actually show exactly what we were doing and what was the benefit. And it was difficult at first because, as you said, they want data, they want their brands to have a ROI. So whatever money they invest, they want a return, which is totally normal. But it's rather difficult to say, it's going to come, but it's going to take time. And it's going to be spread with all the other brands' effort. But I think ultimately, there are brands that really understand that it's for the greater good. And now I think all the brands who are partnering with us, they are aligned with this. And when a new brand wants to join, we tell them, okay, we're not going to put you in front. We are not going to promote your products. It's going to be a collective effort, and et cetera, et cetera. And at the first, it's a bit difficult, but then they understand that we are doing a good job. And at the end of the return, they are going to get probably is not measurable in KPIs as much as, like a digital can bring, like very hard stuff. But it's something that is growing, and the appreciation is growing. And this is something you can't really measure. But we can measure it through the attractiveness we have of our training and certification programs, for example. We've never had such so many requests from all fronts, from the B2B, but also now from the consumer, to get educated, to do more about the watches. And again, at the end, a better educated customer is a better customer because she is able to choose much better, knowing what they're talking about.
This is an interesting thing that the FHH has developed, and that is, we'll call it the test, the exam, which is part of a certification program. And it's, I think, a little bit complicated to try to explain it all. But in essence, you can, especially if you're trying to sell watches or work in the watch industry, get a kind of certification that says, I have studied on watches. I can speak fluently about this topic. I know the basic ways watches work. I know the basic brands, the types. In an environment with a watch customer, I now have this piece of paper that says you can trust me. You know what I mean? I'm not a dummy who's not going to know the basics. And so that is a valuable thing because watch brands themselves, while some of them have training programs, they really can't go that deep. Maybe they can teach people about their own brand, but I think it's important to say that if you are going to work in the watch industry, especially on the sales side, you have to know about the industry in general and not just the history of that one brand. Knowing all the watches and models that your own company makes is simply not enough to allow you to have a coherent conversation with most watch customers. So this background in appreciating the hobby and knowing the history is important. And you and I have, more than two decades each of studying this, and you and I are still learning all the time. Right. So it is something that you have to be interested in and be around. Right. You're lucky you're around these conversations. You just pick it up by being at the meeting. So people that work in this industry from afar or consumers have no chance of getting this education like you have and like I have. And this is a valuable tool because I'll tell you the alternatives, and we were talking about this in New York, is honestly a bunch of, people on YouTube that there's no gatekeepers. They're not part of the industry. They're just trying to make like algorithm friendly content. Like, here's the top 10 things you need to know about mechanical watches. It's like, that's not telling you anything deep. It's not really explaining anything at all. The beauty of what you've done, and this is one of the interesting benefits of working directly with the brands, is you're able to get the culture from the source. You're able to get an education from the world of watches, not studying it from afar, from the men and women doing the craft. And so I truly feel that if you want an education, if you're new to this industry, yes, what you offer is not that cheap, but it's worth it because there's no alternative. There's really no alternative unless you speak French and want to start reading a bunch of books.
That's a great summary. I couldn't have said it better. I mean, really, that's what's important, especially now with the AI and all this approximation about, the answers you get to any request, to get it from a credible source. I mean, to get it from a credible source is going to be even more important because, as you said, we are at the core. So this is exactly what we do and what we give through our training and certification program that's available, of course, for the B2B. And it was developed at first for the sales force, for the people who had to face the clients and be knowledgeable. And now it's extending to the consumer as well, because the consumers want also to be educated, and it's great. And it's really a great news. They get it from a source that is recognized from the industry. And when we say this is like this, you can believe us because we're not going to feed the algorithm. We just don't care about the algorithm. We want to say what's right, and we want to say it clearly so that everyone has a firm base to get their knowledge from.
I'll end it with this. The FHH exam is no propaganda and really honest. You're not trying to sell anything. You're not trying to make anyone look especially good. You're just telling it like it is without an agenda. And that, I think, is what is beautiful about it. There's no way of knowing that from afar. There's plenty of other things that look as polished. They're total BS, total propaganda. All you want to do is get people to know the industry that you work in. And again, that's not something you can say. You can't be like, we're the certification that doesn't BS you. Like, you can't say that. But I can say that. And I wholeheartedly feel that way. And that's why I have always liked it. It's kind of a silly thing, right? Because in most other hobbies, it's like, you want to know about cars? Take this exam. They're like, that's not cool. It doesn't sound like a hip thing to say, if you want to spend money on this hobby, you need to spend money on learning about this hobby. Like, it's kind of pretentious sounding at first, but after you've gone through it, honestly, if you spent months and years wasting your time listening to some of the wrong influencers on social media, if someone said like you could just spend, I don't know, however many hundred Swiss francs to like know the basics without having to deal with all that, people will be like, and I get all those hundreds of hours back, please. Like, I honestly think it's a good idea because even if like you have to mirror me or hang out with Pascal all day, there's no way you can just get this in a consolidated way. So Pascal, the question is, what are the training materials like? Not the exam, but are videos, written material? I remember there was flashcards. What are the tools that you give to people who sign up for these classes?
Well, first of all, thank you for the advocacy. I think, it's so important for us to be recognized. We are 100% non-profit public utility recognized by the Swiss government as such. So the whole money that goes into the FHH goes out in form of projects to, get more education. So definitely no hidden agenda and just wanting to, educate people more and more because education is key, not only in the whole world, but also, of course, in watchmaking, which is a very difficult hobby to get into. So that's one thing. Our training, has started as being, taught in classes. And so the certification program we've developed, and we trained in 11 years of FHH Academy, we trained 40,000 people and certified 15,000 globally. Yeah? So we are active in more than 20 markets. So it's a one global system that is recognized around the planet. And we probably the only one to have certification about general watchmaking knowledge. That's one thing. It started as classes, on materials, on techniques, on industry players, everything that, nomenclature, complications, famous watchmakers, etc. So it's really a varnish of general culture. It was given only in class. And since a few years now, it's available also following a class remotely. And recently, we've launched for the first level of our certification, the advisor program. We launched a video series that you can buy online on our website, where you can self-train and pass the certification. Also, everything remotely without ever seeing one trainer. Okay. This is really the kind of thing that is really easy. You go on our website, hautehorlogerie.org, you go on the boutique, and you have a bundle where you can have the video series and the certification remotely, and you can buy it. Plus, there is a 20% discount until the end of the year because we have our 20th anniversary. So this is one thing. Then if you want to go also in front of a trainer, you can train remotely. Everything is very easy, actually. The first level you can pass in like a couple of days. Second level, which is the specialist level, a couple of days. And if you want to go to the expert level, which is really high, it's really a big step. Then it's 3 days. So it's pretty approachable. And also in terms of money, there's less than $1,000. US dollars if you want to get certified for any level. So it's not like a big investment, but it's still manageable even if you have a job. Even it's not like a 6 months course that will require a lot of time and attention.
Who are the trainers? The people that did the videos, or the ones that you can select to do a class with? Who are these folks? Where do you find them, and how do you train them? Or maybe it's you.
Yeah, part is me, but we have 22 trainers, I think, worldwide that were carefully selected. First, because they're personalities. They're not necessarily professional trainers, but they know the industry, they have the knowledge, etc., etc. And then we have a hidden weapon. It's our master trainer called Gianfranco Richel, who is actually training them and certifying them, saying, okay, this guy can do the watch advisor level, and then we give them the training courses that they can give in their language. Okay, the languages are, I think, 11, and so it's kind of a certification of the trainers so that they can give that much in their market with our training material. It's working very well, actually, and the careful selection of people, well, that's our secret recipe.
Oh, I'm glad that you have a special trade secrets. That's good. That means it's all the more valuable. What do some people say afterwards? I mean, obviously, I know you're here to promote it and things like that, but I'm just curious that the folks that go through it, especially the ones that may not have a predisposition or an expectation, what are some of the unexpected things you've heard after people finish the program?
Well, I hate to say that, but usually it's a 99.9% success rate in terms of positive feedback. What I'm most surprised about is to have people who have nothing to do in the industry, that have nothing to do with working in the watchmaking side, but just wanted to know about them, that get certified and find it so amazing that they want to get to the next level. And sometimes people even not so much knowledgeable that learn along the way and really get into it up to the expert level. And this is for me very, very surprising, because I think, okay, I'm a sort of a geek myself. And of course, I would do nothing less than expert level. Actually, I am a FHH certified trainer anyway, with the expert level. But I wouldn't expect people who are really like geeks to go to that level. And sometimes it happens. It always amazes me.
I think what's impressive about this is, you know, a bunch of, as you said, like watch nerds were asked to put together an exam. And I don't know if you and the team has a background in academia or research methods or things like that. But, you know, the moment you start to put together a class, an exam, training materials, you realize like, wait a minute, like there's a right and wrong way to do this, right?
Yes, definitely.
And I think that the effort that you put into it resulted in a professional outcome. And it's not necessarily because you were all trained for that, but you cared so much about the outcome. I know we're talking a lot about this exam, but I just think it's sort of an interesting manifestation of the industry because it's like better than it needs to be. I think that's sort of an interesting, it's like over-engineered, right? Like you put too much effort into it. Yeah. Like like it could have been, again, more propaganda, more agenda-based, and you would have got most of what you wanted to get done. But like, the real focus on like, no, the history, no, we got to be neutral. No, we don't want to promote one brand over the other. Like that's passion and that's care. And I don't know that most of the people going through this recognize that this could have been way, way worse for them.
Well, thank you for the vote of confidence. But to be honest, and you talk about over-engineering, we really did things seriously. Because when we, I mean, believe me or not, but we put together with the team, and I was not into making the questions, but they developed, I think, 2,500 questions or something like that. And it took us 3 years to come with the questions. And then we hired a company that was a spin-off of the Liège University, you know, in Belgium, who were specialized in dosymology. And believe it or not, dosymology is the science of, designing questions so that you have the desired answers. And so we put the 2,500 questions through the test of this dosymology filter so that they were saying, no, you can't say the question like that. You need to formulate it like this and this and that. And then we did random tests on the different questions so that we pick a few questions of expert level, a few questions of specialist level, etc. And we put together different tests because we can't always raise the same questions to everyone passing the test. Otherwise, it's going to be very easy to capture and to, you know, to cheat. So we had different set of tests, and the idea was to have the same score at the end. So it took like 18 months, I guess, I don't remember, so that we could calibrate the question so that we had the desired answers and the desired level that was reproducible from one test to another. So yes, it's over-engineered.
I mean, look, it's just some more context for my expectation of why I'm saying all this. Like the major test I had taken before that exam was the bar exam, right? Okay. And in the United States, different. You know, the bar exam to become a lawyer is another one of those over-engineered exams where the stakes are very high and people care a lot. And so I think that's what I noticed. I was like, there's a lot of parallels here. Like, this is a very professionally done exam. Like, this isn't just like, you know, barroom trivia, learn your watch history. But anyways, if you're not, that's the thing. People listening to this show probably are not super novices, but if you have one in your life or someone asks you and wants to get a crash course, or maybe you want your friend or your spouse, right? Like you have a new girlfriend and she doesn't know about watches, get her the course, right? Because then she can go with you to the events, or he can go with you to events, or whatever it is, and at least know a little bit. Maybe that's the best usage in this day and age. You know, for friends and lovers and family members who you want to be slightly less alienated from your hobby, just say to them, it's no more than 3 days, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. That's a good pitch, right?
Yeah, that's a great pitch. Definitely. Yeah, that's it.
So let's change topics a little bit to more of today and some of the activities and things you do. Travel is still a big part of it. Is the mission today the same or different as it was in terms of teaching people about the culture of watches? Because the world has changed in a lot of ways. Watches are not that different, but what has changed in the last 20 years about the core mission of spreading, the understanding of the culture?
Basically, the mission hasn't changed, but the means and the ways we're using to spread the good word have changed, because the world has become more digital, has become more remote, more global. Travel is part of it, because we need also to meet the communities where they are, because we know that and COVID has taught us that digital was right, but spreading the passion, feeling the beat, touching the watches, exchanging in a one-to-one way is also part of it, and it's part of sharing the passion. So I would say mission hasn't changed. We have basically three pillars of activities. One is the academy that we just discussed at length. The second one, what we call watches and culture, is actually what makes us travel. Is try to storytell, bring closer to the people, explain in a, let's say, fun and more approachable way to the newer customers, watchmaking culture in general, through exhibitions, through events, through talks, through many different things, but also, of course, online. And the third one is the FHH Forum. And the Forum is a platform for discussion and debate. It was originally made for the industry to, discuss the future, the endeavors that the industry should take, the challenges, etc., etc. And for the first time, we brought it in a more open consumer format to New York the other month. And we see that it's fitting to discuss topics of the industry that touch also the consumer in a more open way. So people from the industry that can discuss with the consumers about what are the trends, what is doing the secondary market is doing, what is the luxury consumer, how is he evolving, what is the future of luxury in general, those kind of things. And so it's a real big array of different ways to spread the good word.
Let's talk about the debate side. You said debate, and I agree with you that in an ideal context, this industry engages in a lot of debate. And I think what's healthy about it is it's not clear what to do as a watch brand to succeed. You can make an amazing product and not do well, and there's brands that make mediocre products and do amazing. So debate, I think, is a very healthy activity. But I'm sure you'll agree, there's a lot of conservative minds. There's a lot of discretion and secrecy. Simply disagreeing with someone publicly in order to begin a debate is rare. But I think that once people do it, they appreciate it. So in your opinion, what are some of the more effective strategies to encourage safe debate? Because again, people are quite threatened by a lot. And I know, because I like to debate people, right? Like, I love to debate. I find it fascinating. I don't do it with ill intentions. I think debating is about exploring ideas so that the best ideas can arise, and ones that are not as good arguments can be determined as such through the debate. So it's debate for me is truth seeking. And this is an industry that likes good ideas. It likes to celebrate good ideas. It likes to perpetuate good ideas. So in your experience, and again, especially moving forward, where I think this is more important, how can you encourage debate, and how can you facilitate more of it?
You said it. I mean, the industry has not a habit or a history of secrecy. It's embedded in the industry, and it's hard to get out of this because it's been here forever. And before, a few decades ago, watchmakers were basically just doing watches, and then they were sending them in the market so that it can be distributed. And then it all changed with the globalization and the start of retail, where watch brands became, involved in the selling of products. And I think at the same time, world has changed so much and become more and more open that, okay, being Swiss and being a watchmaker is not a guarantee of being on the forefront of openness. I know I'm Swiss myself, so I can say, and I have seen that it's sometimes a bit difficult, but it's getting there, and providing the opportunities to do so, and inviting the brands to express themselves in those contexts, such as the forum, which is open, and debate with the others. I think it's the best thing to do, is to provide the framework so that the people can put themselves on a stage and discuss and debate. That would be the best thing to do going forward. We can't force brands to exchange trade secrets on stage, of course, but I think by doing more and more of these kind of events, it provides the right framework so that they can express themselves more.
You know, it's an interesting topic for me. I've thought about it a lot. You know, and I look at the larger context of Swiss academia when it comes to science, philosophy, and dissecting business models. There's such a rich culture of deep analysis, asking big questions and honestly answering them. But in the watch industry, when it comes to how to do business, not how to make watches, but how to do business, all of that seems to go away. And there's this weird disconnect between Switzerland's amazing history with pure academia and pursuit of truth and this industry that clearly needs it, but doesn't want it. And I've just never understood, you know what I mean? Like, you're Swiss, you see it, and maybe you don't understand, but you agree it's an irony.
It's a bit of an irony, yeah. But again, I think it's part of a rich, long history, and it has to be deconstructed, step by step. When you're forced to, and you know that the Swiss watch industry can react very quickly. I mean, we've seen that during the quartz crisis, we've seen that during the COVID, etc. But you need to adapt. They are prone to adapt. But when the need is not pressing, it will take its time to come. But I think we are more and more in an open, transparent world, and the work has already started. And, in terms of, sustainability and stuff like that, which was absolute secret like 10 years ago, even 5. Now we see more and more exchange. We see more and more openness. We see more and more reports being published. Of course, the reports are probably not 100% open yet, but, we're getting there because you can't go against this. It's the world evolution, and yeah.
And do you? I mean, you don't read everything I do, of course, but you see that I have open debates and open conversations with the industry. I get a lot of feedback in the United States, and in private conversations, people will say, "Thank you, I appreciate that article." But I'm just curious, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but are those conversations noticed internally by the managers? Are they discussed? Is there an active conversation, even if they aren't very public about it?
To be honest, I wouldn't know. We're not that close to the brands. We're close, but we don't discuss these things, to be honest.
That's how secret it is, right? Like, it's anything related to problems is like me and my 5 friends. That's it. That's all. Only people that hear about it.
We're working for the industry. We're not involved in the brand's businesses. And I think it's a clear distinction, and it's probably better for us because we don't want to be involved. We need also to have our, our space and be disconnected. No, I mean, it's part of what we do. We don't want to be an instrument for a few brands or for the brands. We are an instrument for the promotion of the industry. And therefore, if we're disconnected from the brand's business, it's all the better.
So again, I can appreciate that. And you have to have limits. And that's my problem. I don't always know my limits. But what I've recognized is that sometimes I see problems, and I don't just see it at one brand. I see system problems. And I try to give everyone a warning, like, hey, everyone, you may not have been thinking about this, but this is an issue. And I think they appreciate at the end of the day. Even though they grumble, I think they appreciate it. Does the industry expect from the FHH a similar level of outlook? Meaning, hey guys, could you let us know about things that we need to anticipate? Kind of the same reason that financial traders, read the Wall Street Journal or those types of publications. They're looking for things to know about that they may have not seen from someone analyzing their industry.
Yes, as long as it doesn't go into their business models, at the core. No, I mean, but believe me, I can give you a few examples where, part of our FHH forum activity is organizing masterclasses. So, we're organizing, just maybe one example. We were doing a masterclass on digital archives and how to keep track on the brand online. And so we invited brands, and it was really much followed. We did another masterclass on the digital product passport. I don't know if you heard about this European Union recommendation that is going into force in 2027, where every product sold within the European Union should have a digital product passport stating where it comes from, where how it was produced, etc., etc. So this is
like an NFT.
Let's say yes, like an NFT, exactly. So it's going to come into force, and it's going to change the way people are marketing their products. Otherwise, if they don't provide that, they won't be able to sell in European Union, which is one of the main markets. So everyone is bracing for this, and so this kind of masterclass provides a framework of understanding what they should do, how, etc., etc. But it's not like how are we going to sell the watches tomorrow. So we're not exactly into the core business of the watch brands, but we are helping them with problems that impact them or will impact them soon. So they are really willing for us to take the steps and help them.
This is where my Americanness helps, because I like bringing up topics they never said that they want to talk about, right? I'm like, no, we need to talk about this. And I mean well, but I've always found it interesting that in their opinion, I first needed to ask permission. Like, is it okay if we talk about your problems? And I just think someone has to. And I'm told on a regular basis, thank you for being the only one or one of the only ones. We need this. And I think it's, again, another one of the interesting ironies of this industry is it requires analysis and insight so much. They want to understand the world around them, yet they're not willing to contribute to any knowledge related to explaining that world around them.
What can I say? It's how it is. And so we certainly don't have such a big influence on how they run their business. And again, I think it's not our role, and it's better like this, because we have probably much more legitimacy not going into this. And we, again, are more into bringing up, inciting, increasing the appreciation than trying to, put our finger on one or the other specific thing, at least not publicly. But yeah, I understand your point.
Now, the business model for the FHH has changed. Your mission has changed a little bit. You have a new relationship with some of your members. How do you engage with them on a regular basis? Of course, you invite them to things. Do you make house calls? Do you visit them to say hello? And when you do meet with them, what do they ask of you? What types of services do they want? What types of information they want? I'm just curious what their stated requests are for you and the rest of the FHH team.
What is interesting is that we have like 40 partner brands, and we have 40 ways of working, 40 different sets of minds, 40 different internal organizations.
Sounds like our clients. I totally get it. Totally get it. Yeah.
Right. Which is very interesting in a way. It shows that it's not like a very standardized industry, although some are more prone for us finding solutions for training their staff. Let's say, multi-product brands, like, the likes of Cartier, Bulgari, or Hermes, they pretty much, as you said in the beginning, like probably don't have the possibility of training their staff specifically on watches, and they are relating to us to do that because we are the specialists, which is fair. Some others is about the knowledge and the existence of their brand within that perimeter, because they need legitimacy to impose themselves because they're new or because they're not known enough, so they want more exposure. It's very, very, very different from one brand to another. I have, as an example, one brand that wanted to have in all their own boutiques watch experts, so that they can really give the best service to their clients. So they had a whole expert certification program run throughout all the boutiques in the world that wanted to have experts trained and certified by us. Yeah, it depends what we're doing also for them. And again, it's not necessarily on a request basis, but we do visit the manufacturers, and we highlight a specific endeavor of theirs. One can be on the finishing, one can be on the Geneva hallmark or whatever. And we do small videos, like go on the social media, etc., to incite. Of course, they participate to our forums and stuff, etc., etc. Maybe also, all these sorts of programs are interesting for them. We are also having every year or every other year a big exhibition where we try to showcase what they're doing. And I give just maybe this year's exhibition as an example because it will answer your question quite well. We did an exhibition called Watchmakers in 2 words this year to try to make people understand the various steps of the production of a watch. We've always either examples or an experience like, screwing so tiny screws that you can't really feel them, trying to angle a bridge, try to, circular graining a plate, etc., etc. All these experiences were brought by different brands. So this year we have 30 of our partner brands participating to the exhibition, which was probably a record. So it's a way for them to be present and also to showcase what they're doing. So it's very varied.
Events are so popular these days, and they have, of course, great effect. People need to see one another. Watches need to be handled in person, as you said. And as I've written many, many times, watches are often best appreciated in the context of other watches. When you see them amongst similar models or other models you get to compare, you appreciate it all the more. Yet, at the same time, some would argue there's too many events these days. What, in your opinion, are the important events? Because I think we're moving to a place where there's too much for people to go to and they can't handle it all. So what for you are those events that you say these types of events need to continue, but these other types of events, maybe they're nice to have, but we don't need to prioritize them because, somebody has to work in the office once in a while.
Okay. You mean consumer events?
Well, in general, you're a trusted name in the space. There's decision makers listening to this. They're trying to decide where they need to go, what's important to them. We'll say at the top of the list is going to Watches and Wonders. Yeah, you should probably do that. But the regional watch event at, Germany's 4th largest city, do you need to go there? I don't know. It depends. Maybe yes.
No, I think the leading event today, Watches and Wonders being probably the most obvious. Dubai Watch Week is a great event for consumers. CR in Mexico is a very high quality event that I think we partnered with CR already back in 2008, where Mexico was almost not on the map. And I think Carlos Alonso has made such a tremendous job. Geneva Watch Days is an interesting event. And again, FHH tries to be also partnering with the main events worldwide because we don't need to be only doing stuff for Watches and Wonders, but much more than that. So we are actually, maybe Watch Time also in New York is quite an interesting event because probably, to the best of my knowledge, the biggest consumer event in the US, right? Or please.
I don't know. I mean, you have the Vegas events. Those have been big, might be big again. I think those might be the big.
Trade, right? Well,
these days the lines are blending. I don't even. You know what I mean? It's all blending together now. I think this year they're actually going to have a big open element.
Okay, and I was quite amazed to visit the Wind Up Watch Fair. It's bringing another perspective, and this is quite an interesting phenomenon to see the crazy developments of micro brands over the last few years that gives an alternative to the majors at a time where everything becomes blur. And so Wind Up, I think, was like 40 or 60 brands 2-3 years ago, like 100 brands last year, like 140 this year, which is crazy if you think
more than 150, actually.
Yeah. Well, crazy. It was a huge queue the whole day to get into the show. So it really shows that the passion for watches is really at this high. And there are so many ways to appreciate watches today. And so, those kind of salon are, I think, really good to for customer education perspective, because they get to see the whole, the whole bunch. Although I'm quite amazed that like every other week there is a new brand emerging.
Yep.
What's the limit? That's my own very tricky question. What's the limit? I mean, how the market can absorb so much? Because you have brands that are like, 500 francs like products, and some that are 120,000 francs products, and they pop up like this, all over the place. So I'm just amazed, and I'm really questioning how and up to which point the market can absorb that.
I feel like this needs to be a discussion at one of the forums. I can moderate it. You can even be there, and we can discuss how many watch brands is too many watch brands. I have thoughts on the matter.
Okay, good, interesting. Yeah, that's certainly one point of discussion, because I mean, where can you end? Again, I think it's a worthy discussion topic.
The last question we have time for, Pascal, is I guess it's the City Guide. You've now published a Geneva Watchmaker's History City Guide. What is this book? Why should people get it? Should you send me one? What do I need to know about this?
Definitely will. It's a Geneva watchmaking guide for the people visiting Geneva and interested. They can know a lot about what brought watchmaking in Geneva. Spoiler, it's religion. And they have a lot of interesting places to visit. And so
we know you worship watches. Okay, we get it.
That's my religion. And so, it's a very interesting thing for every people wanting to visit Geneva in a different way, in a more angled way. And we did publish this together with Geneva Tourism Board. And so they are the one releasing it. We provided the content, basically. And it's quite interesting. It's really interesting. It's only available at Geneva Tourism, but I will certainly make a copy available for you.
Oh, that's not, it seems like a cool book. I was just going to the website, you have this boutique there. I was like, well, what can you buy? And I realized this book. I'm like, that sounds pretty interesting. Can you do like a walking tour? Is that how it's designed to be? You hold it and you walk around, you look at things?
Yes, you can. You can definitely. They can definitely do that. There are really many different places of interest, and so when you read the book, you understand better why. Because you have a chance to go through the city and just miss that or this place, and then reading the book, you can understand the importance, watch-related importance of that place.
That's fantastic.
It's really fun.
That's fantastic. Well, I thank you for this time, Pascal. I just want to let everyone know that if you are interested, the website is hautehorlogerie.org. Pascal, is there any other places on the internet that you want people to go where they can engage with or learn more about you and the FHH?
That's the one point.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning it.
My pleasure. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with Pascal Ravessoud, the Vice President of the Fondation Haute Horlogerie. Pascal, great talking to you as always.
Great. Thank you for having me, Ariel. It was a great time. Thanks.